Good morning, everyone. I'm a Dr. Mohal Banker, and I welcome you all on this busy Sunday morning. તમે આ સન્ડે મોર્નિંગમાં તમારો કિંમતી સમય કાઢી અને એન્ટી ફ્રજાઇલ 2021 કોન્ફરન્સ માટે તમે ઉપસ્થિત રહ્યા છો એ બદલ ખૂબ ખૂબ આભાર અને આઈ વેલકમ યુ ઓલ. એન્ટી ફ્રજાઇલ, this very interesting word, અને it is popularized by one of my favorite author called Nassim Taleb. એ ફ્રજાઇલ મતલબ કે કોઈ પણ નાનો ધક્કો વાગે કે કોઈ પણ ડિફિકલ્ટ સિચ્યુએશનમાં તૂટી જાય. આપણે ગ્લાસ લઈએ તો ગ્લાસને થોડો પણ ધક્કો કોઈ પણ થર્સ્ટ આવે તો તૂટી જાય. સો ઇટ્સ અ બ્રેકેબલ, દેટ ઇઝ ફ્રજાઇલ. એટલે ફ્રજાઇલનું એક્ઝેક્ટ ઓપોઝિટ છે, દેટ ઇઝ કોલ્ડ રોબસ્ટ. રોબસ્ટ મીન્સ કે આવા કોઈ પણ નાના મોટા ધક્કાથી એને કશી ફરક નથી પડતો. ઇટ રિમેન્સ એઝ ઇટ ઇઝ. દેટ ઇઝ આપણે કોઈ પણ મેટલ લઈ લઈએ કે ગ્લાસની કમ્પેરિઝનમાં એક્ઝેક્ટ ઓપોઝિટ કોઈ લોખંડ લઈએ તો એને કોઈ નાના મોટા ધક્કાથી કોઈ ફરક નથી પડતો. Now the new terminology which is introduced by the Nassim Taleb, that is called anti-fragile. Like anti-fragile means કે તમે એ જે એવી વસ્તુ છે કે જેને કોઈ પણ નાનો મોટો ડિફિકલ્ટ સિચ્યુએશન આવે છે કે નાનો થર્સ્ટ આવે છે તો એ બ્રેકડાઉન નથી થતું કે નથી ત્યાંનું ત્યાં સ્ટેગ્નન્ટ રહેતું, but it is gaining from that situation. So that is called anti-fragile. And there is a concept of this today's conference. COVID-19 2020 આપણે આ વર્ષ જોયું છે કે લગભગ 8 થી 9 મહિનાના લોકડાઉનમાં ઘણા બધા ડોક્ટર્સની પ્રેક્ટિસ છે એ સ્ટેન્સિલ થઈ ગઈ અથવા તો ઓલમોસ્ટ બંધ જેવી રહી. ઘણા બધા મિત્રોને તો હું ઓળખું છું, મોટા મોટા EMI હતા, પેશન્ટ્સ આવતા નતા, ઇમરજન્સી સર્વિસીસ જેવા બધું 8 થી 9 મહિના બંધ રહ્યું અને દે હેવ ફેસ લોટ્સ ઓફ ટ્રબલ. આમાંથી ઘણા બધા મિત્રો છે એમણે નવો પોતાનો માર્ગ શોધી નાખ્યો. એક બે જણાએ તો જીવનમાં ક્યારે સ્ટોક ટ્રેડિંગ ચાલુ નતું કર્યું, એ લોકોએ સ્ટોકનું ટ્રેડિંગ ચાલુ કરી નાખ્યું અને દે વોન્ટ અ લોટ. એક બે મિત્રો એવા છે કે જેમણે COVID-19 જે એની હોમ કેર સર્વિસીસ ચાલુ કરી, જીવનમાં કોઈ દિવસે હોમ કેર સર્વિસીસમાં પડ્યા નતા, પણ દે હેવ ફાઇન્ડ આઉટ ધ ન્યૂ વે એન્ડ સ્ટાર્ટેડ અર્નિંગ ઇન્ટુ ન્યૂ થિંગ્સ. સો આજે આ એન્ટી ફ્રજાઇલ 2021 નો થીમ જ એ છે કે આવા જ લોકોને આ કોન્ફરન્સમાં ટોક માટે મેં ઇન્વાઇટ કર્યા છે અને દે આર ગોઈંગ ટુ શો અસ હાઉ ટુ બીકમ એન્ટી ફ્રજાઇલ. કોઈ પણ ડિફિકલ્ટ સિચ્યુએશનનો સામનો કેવી રીતે કરવાનો અને એમાંથી કેવી રીતે આપણને ફાયદો થાય, કેવી રીતે આપણે ગેઇન કરી શકીએ, દેટ ઇઝ અ મોટો ઓફ ધીસ કોન્ફરન્સ. નસીમ તાલેબની વાત કરીએ તો નસીમ તાલેબ બહુ સરસ એની આ બુકમાં લખે છે કે સ્ટ્રેસ or little bit of difficulty is very important in any humankind. જ્યારે આપણે સ્ટ્રેસને ફેસ કરીએ છીએ ત્યારે આપણું માઇન્ડ છે એ માઇન્ડ વિગરસલી વિચારે છે કે મારે આમાંથી કેવી રીતે બીજો નવો ઉપાય કાઢવો, કોઈ નવો રસ્તો કાઢવો અને એમાંથી નવો ઉપાય કાઢે જ છે. જો આ સ્ટ્રેસ ના પડ્યો હોય, જો આપણે ડિફિકલ્ટ સિચ્યુએશનનો સામનો ના કર્યો હોય તો આપણું માઇન્ડ કદાચ એ નવા રસ્તા માટે વિચારતું જ નથી. સો એકચ્યુઅલી the little bit of stress, little bit of exposure to new difficulties is very necessary for our every human. ને તો જ આપણો વધારે સારો પ્રોગ્રેસ થાય છે. આપણે જંગલની વાત કરીએ, લેટ્સ સી ફ્યુ એક્ઝામ્પલ્સ કે જંગલમાં ધારો કે સૂકા લાકડા થોડા ભેગા થયા હોય, સ્મોલ ક્વોન્ટિટીમાં હોય અને આગ લાગે તો એ આગ બહુ લોકલાઇઝ એરિયામાં ડિફાઇન્ડ રહે છે, પૂરા જંગલમાં સ્પ્રેડ થતી નથી. પણ આ જ સૂકા લાકડાને આપણે ભેગા થવા દઈએ અને એ પાઇલઅપ થઈ જાય અને ભલે જંગલમાં આગ ઘણા વર્ષો સુધી ના લાગી હોય પણ આ સૂકા લાકડા ભેગા થયા હોય, કોઈક એવું સ્ટિમ્યુલેટિંગ ફેક્ટર આવે, આ લાકડાની બળવાનું ચાલુ થાય તો આખા જંગલને બાળીને ખાક કરી નાખે. સો સિમિલરલી ઇટ ઇઝ વેરી ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ કે આપણે આ સૂકા લાકડા જેમ બળે છે એવી નાના સ્મોલ ક્વોન્ટિટીમાં, એવી રીતે સ્મોલ ક્વોન્ટિટીમાં સ્ટ્રેસને ડિફિકલ્ટ સિચ્યુએશનનો સામનો કરીએ. વી ફાઇન્ડ આઉટ અવર ન્યૂ વે એન્ડ ધેન વી બીકમ એન્ટી ફ્રજાઇલ. હવે આપણો ગ્રોથ ત્યારે જ આપણે જોવા મળે. COVID-19ની વાત કરીએ તો તમે આપણે કોઈ પણ ડેવલપ કન્ટ્રી લો, માનો કે અમેરિકા લઈએ તો એમાં મોર્ટાલિટી રેટ ઇઝ ક્વાઇટ હાઈ દેન ધ ડેવલપિંગ કન્ટ્રી લાઇક ઇન્ડિયા. એનું રીઝન શું છે કે અમેરિકન સિટીઝન્સ આર સો મચ પ્રોટેક્ટેડ. પહેલેથી જ એટલી બધી સુપિરિયર હાઇજિનિકલ કન્ડિશન્સમાં જીવે છે લોકો કે દે આર નોટ એક્સપોઝ ટુ અનહાઇજિનિકલ કન્ડિશન વિચ વી આર ફેસિંગ ઇન ઇન્ડિયા. આપણે લારી પર પાણીપુરી ખાવા જઈએ છીએ કે બીજી કોઈ પણ જાતની અનહાઇજિનિકલ કન્ડિશન્સમાં આપણે expose થયેલા છે, and that's why our immunity is built up, which are developing countries, are developed country અમેરિકાના citizens ને આવું exposure મળતું નથી, and that's why its immunity is low, and that's why they are more fragile than our Indians. પોલિટિકલી વાત કરીએ તો એક વ્યક્તિ એવો છે કે which is over protected since birth, અને ઓવર પ્રોટેક્ટેડને કારણે અત્યારે જ્યારે આ ડિફિકલ્ટ સિચ્યુએશનનો જ્યારે સામનો કરવામાં આવે છે ત્યારે ઇઝ લિટલ બીટ હેલ્પલેસ, ક્લ્યુલેસ, એને શું કરવું છે ખબર જ નથી પડતી. અને એની સામે ઓપોઝિટમાં એક વ્યક્તિ એવા છે કે જે જન્મથી જ મુશ્કેલીનો સામનો કરી રહ્યા છે, અને એને કારણે પોતાની જાતને અત્યારે તો બરાબર છે પણ આખા દેશની મુશ્કેલીઓને અત્યારે દૂર કરવા માટે he is very taking very active participating. So actually the small stress, small difficult situation make us anti-fragile, and that is the motto of our conference. અમારી વાત કરીએ તો COVID-19 માં અમારી મોટા ભાગની પ્રેક્ટિસ છે that is બહારગામની પ્રેક્ટિસ, ઓલમોસ્ટ પ્લાન્ટ સર્જરી થતી હોય, પણ પરિસ્થિતિ એવી આવી કે બહારગામથી પેશન્ટ્સ આવવાના લોકડાઉનમાં બંધ થઈ ગયા, પ્લાન્ટ સર્જરીઝ બંધ થઈ ગઈ. ઇટ વોઝ વેરી ડિફિકલ્ટ સિચ્યુએશન. પણ મેં અને મારા પાર્ટનર ડોક્ટર રુઝિલ ગાંધીએ વી હેવ ફાઇન્ડ આઉટ ધ ન્યૂ સોલ્યુશન. ડોક્ટર યુજી ઓકુનો, હી ઇઝ અ ઇન્ટરવેન્શન રેડિયોલોજિસ્ટ ફ્રોમ જાપાન, અને એમણે મસ્ક્યુલોસ્કેલેટલ પેઇન માટે નવી પદ્ધતિ શોધેલી હતી, genicular artery embolization for knee pain, for shoulder embolization. The same technology is very useful for tennis elbow, heel pain, or any kind of musculoskeletal pain. So me and Dr. Ruzil Gandhi, we have find out this technique, we have learned this, we have read this, we learned from Dr. Yuji Okuno, and we have started this. Right now, we have completed India's first 25 cases of genicular artery embolization. So our basic aim is expose to yourself to little bit of stress, little bit difficult situation, and find out the new way to come out from all this difficulty. And that is the motto of our goal. So now I would like to invite Dr. Ruzil Gandhi. He is a partner in my crime. We have together developed this technique. We have started this, and we have treated 25 cases right now for genicular artery embolization. So Dr. Ruzil Gandhi, he is a very young, dynamic intervention radiologist doing lots of vascular and interventional work. And I invite Dr. Ruzil. Dr. Ruzil Gandhi, I will hand over mic to you.
Thank you, sir, for a very nice introduction and everything, and bringing this very new genicular artery embolization topic to me and to the Indian public. So I will share how we do genicular artery embolization for knee osteoarthritis. What is the role of intervention radiology in the knee osteoarthritis disease, and how an intervention radiologist can help? We already know for knee osteoarthritis there is role of medical management, there is great role of physiotherapy, and there is tremendous role of TKR, knee replacement. But we also come up with something and that would be helpful eventually in the patient's overall management. What is intervention radiology? We do something in all branches of medicine. We help nephrologists, gastrophysicians, vascular surgeons, even in chest, oncology and neurology. We do emergency cases like bleeder embolization. But for me, how we help? First of all, we assess the patient by clinical examination, the point of tenderness in the knee joint, how is the pain, when is the pain, during stair climbing, during from sitting to standing positions. We evaluate by radiographs of the knee joint, AP and lateral radiographs. Do an MRI to see the cartilage, how is the cartilage thickness, and check the blood parameters. Indications of genicular artery embolization: knee pain should be 3 months old, not less, not responding to physiotherapy or the medical management. That is more important. The first choice is the medical management, NSAIDs and the physiotherapy. Other indications, spontaneous pain including nighttime pain, rest pain strongly suggest the presence of abnormal vessel, abnormal hypervascularity, and that we have to stop. And when there is local tenderness over the joint, pain during climbing stairs, young age group, extremely old age group, where surgery has its own complication, and patient doesn't want to go for joint replacement surgery. That are the indications of genicular artery embolization. This is the WOMAC scale, Western Ontario and McMaster University Osteoarthritis Index. That is how we objectively evaluate the patient prior to the embolization, and that is how we select the patients. So how we do it? Basically, we reduce the vascularity or occlude the vascularity of the joint, and that's how when the hypervascularity reduces, the synovial nerve endings that are hypertrophied, they get necrosed or they stop functioning. So the knee pain of the patient reduces. So predominantly the knee joint is supplied by the genicular arteries that arise from the distal superficial femoral and the proximal popliteal artery. Commonest are lateral circumflex femoral, circumflex fibular, recurrent branches of the anterior tibial. They also form the anastomotic network around the joint. So basically we see 6 to 8 arteries and we embolize them if we find hypervascularity. This is just a schematic diagram showing the descending genicular, medial and lateral, superior and inferior geniculars. As I told, prerequisites before doing and before selecting a patient is very good recent X-ray and a recent MRI, with obviously routine pre-op blood investigations. How we do the procedure? We go antegradely in the common femoral artery under ultrasound guidance. We take a 4 French femoral sheath, a diagnostic catheter, through which a microcatheter is 1.7 French, whereas the diagnostic catheter is 4 French. So you can see it is very thin. And through the microcatheter, we inject embolizing agents. After evaluating blood supply of the inflamed synovium, we go in each and every genicular arteries, right from the descending genicular to the recurrent branch that arises from the anterior tibial. We cannulate them all, evaluate for the hypervascularity, and close or occlude the hypervascularity by embolizing them. This is how the embolizing agents go up to the capillary level and occlude them. The major vessel, it remains patent. That is the beauty of this procedure. So we are not causing necrosis of the knee joint. We are just causing or stopping the inflamed sensory nerve endings, the inflamed synovium to stop, and thus there is pain relief. These are our pictures. The left one, the blue arrow shows hypervascularity at the medial tibiofemoral joint. You can see the hypervascularity here. This is our microcatheter, very deep inside the genicular branch. This is the supromedial genicular artery. And this is after embolization. You cannot see any hypervascularity here, but the main branch is patent. So, as I told, this is the beauty of the procedure. The main branches are patent, so there is no necrosis. There is the lower limb is not affected. There is no risk of gangrene to the lower limb. These are other branches. This is the inframedial branch. This is the supralateral branch. And this is post-embolization. You can see the collateral around the knee joint. The supromedial, supralateral, and recurrent branch from the anterior tibial, all are seen. But there is no hypervascularity seen after embolization. Advantages: we take a femoral puncture, so patient has to remain supine for 8 hours without moving that lower limb. So it is a daycare procedure. We can admit the patient very early in the morning and they can go by night. very less dye used, contrast media, done under local anesthesia. Early ambulation means there is very less or no risk of DVT or infection. It is anyway done in cath lab, it's an angio suit, and it is done under sterile conditions. The patient is awake throughout the procedure. Complications, non-target embolization, chances are very, very less because of the embolizing agent we use, and procedure is done under continuous fluoroscopy. So the chances of non-target embolization are very less, but nevertheless, numbness of that part of the skin surface on the knee joint can occur. There can be renal issues because of the contrast media, but again, we use a non-ionic contrast and we use very less contrast. So these complications are very rare. To conclude, this is a safe and effective procedure done under daycare with very high success rates. Will have an important place in the algorithm of the patient's management for knee osteoarthritis. Almost all studies till now, till today, give more than 80% pain relief at 3 years of follow-up. Because it is non-operative, non-surgical, it is one of the good options. I will share this video of a patient we had done with Mohan sir, and you see the patient's response. This is just few days prior.
नमस्कार, आज हमारी यूनिट चंदन में છે. ચંદનબેનને જમણી બાજુ ઘૂંટણમાં ખૂબ જ દુખાવો હતો અને એમાં અમે જેનિક્યુલર આર્ટરી એમ્બ્યુલેશન કરી હતી. ચંદનબેનનો આપણે અનુભવ જાણીએ. ચંદનબેન, તમને જ્યારે જેનિક્યુલર આર્ટરી એમ્બ્યુલેશન કર્યું આ પ્રોસિજર પહેલા તમને શું તકલીફ હતી?
સખત કોક દુખતું, નીચેમાં મૂકી શકાતો, ભારે ભારે લાગતું, ચાલી ન શકાતું, રાત્રે સૂતા હોય તો દુખતું હોય, ઘણી બધી તકલીફ.
These are typical patients' complaints.
તમને કેવું લાગે?
સૂતરિયામાંથી બહુ સરસ લાગે. બહુ હળવું થઈ ગયો છે, રાત્રે ઊંઘ આવી ગઈ છે, ખબર થઈ ગઈ છે, અને જે 30% જેટલું રહી ગયું એમાં માઇનોર જ દુખે છે.
તમને પ્રોસિજર કરાવતી વખતે કોઈ તકલીફ પડી કે નથી?
બિલકુલ નહીં. જોવાની મજા આવી ગઈ.
તમે જોઈ શકતા હતા ને કે એન્જિયોગ્રાફી કરીએ ત્યારે દવા કઈ જગ્યાએ જાય છે અને શું. સરસ, થેન્ક યુ સો મચ.
So, thank you all for patient hearing. Thank you. Sir, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rosil, for this nice talk. And I am going to show you my next talk about the frozen shoulder. Just a minute. So thank you so much for Rosil for this your nice talk. It's very informative, and we have learned a lots of things from your talk. Basically, me and Rosil Dev, we have started this treatment just a few months back by learning from Dr. Yuji Okuno, and he is a intervention radiologist from Japan, and he has started the first case in 2014. And this technology is very useful not only for knee pain of osteoarthritis, but this technology is also very useful for frozen shoulder and heel pain, tennis elbow, and lots of chronic musculoskeletal pain. So I especially thanks to Dr. Yuji Okuno. From him we learned this technique and we have implemented over here. So what is a frozen shoulder? So its name suggests the shoulder is frozen. That means movement of the frozen shoulder is affected. And in medical terminology, it is also called the adhesive capsulitis. And there are two kind of frozen shoulder. First one is a primary, and second one is a secondary. In primary frozen shoulder, it shows there is no history of any trauma. And saying secondary frozen shoulder, it shows history of trauma. So this is how it works to differentiate from the primary to secondary frozen shoulder. Yes. Just a minute, Joey. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So there are three stages of frozen shoulder. First one is a freezing stage, second one is a frozen stage, and third one is a thawing stage, that is recovery phase. If you go through all these stages one by one, I think so there's some problem in So first phase is freezing stage, and in freezing stage, patient has a pain, and we have painful frozen shoulder with the restriction of the movement. And second is a frozen state. That means the patient does not have so much pain, but his shoulder joint movement is restricted. And third one is called recovery phase or thawing phase. In this, patient is starting regaining his shoulder joint movement. And typically, all these three phases last for 9 months to 6 years or 9 years. And many times, patient recover from this frozen shoulder, but still, it's normal frozen normal shoulder joint movement cannot be established. More or like a frozen shoulder is a clinical diagnosis. X-ray we do or MRI. All these investigations are useful for excluding the other etiology like a bone fracture or ligament rupture. And frozen shoulder can be diagnosed with these three movements. One is an internal rotation, second one is an external rotation, and third one is an abduction. So what is that? So first of all, we ask the patients કે તમારો હાથ પાછળના બેક પોકેટમાં જઈ શકે છે કે નહીં. Most of the time, patient is not able to do it. Second one is called external rotation. In that, we ask the patient કે તમે તમારા હાથથી કાંસકાથી વાળ ઓળી શકો છો કે નથી ઓળી શકતા. And third one is called abduction. એટલે હાથ ઉપર ઉઠાવી શકો કે નથી ઉઠાવી શકતા. મોટા ભાગે દર્દીની આ ત્રણ મૂવમેન્ટ સિવિયરલી અફેક્ટ થતી હોય છે. And that's why patient face lots of difficulties. So now, what are the management options? For non-operative management, physiotherapy is very good options. My colleague Dr. Amit is going to cover this topic into the next talk. Second one is a steroid, whether it's intra-articular or steroid or oral steroid injections, some nerve blocks. These all gives a temporary pain relief. Physiotherapy is very good options, but many times physiotherapy doesn't work at all. And on surgical option, manipulation under the anesthesia or arthroscopic capsular release, these are the two options. But with this surgical method also, the results are very, very poor. So there is a huge gap between the non-operative treatment and the operative treatment. So which are the options? There is a frozen shoulder embolization introduced by Dr. Yuji Okuno from Japan, and he has published his first paper in 2014, and he has shown there's frozen shoulder embolization. It works well into these patients, and it eliminates the frozen shoulder from this patient. So now let's understand what happened into these different stages of frozen shoulder. First one is a freezing. Then in the શું થાય આપણે કદાચ ખ્યાલ હોય ને તો એક મચ્છર પણ કરડે ને તો નાની ફોલ્લી થઈ જાય. તો that is a site of acute inflammation. અને ફોલ્લી કે સ્ટ્રેચ કેમ થાય છે? કારણ કે ત્યાં હાઇપરવાસ્ક્યુલરિટી ડેવલપ થાય છે. to deliver the inflammatory agents which is called cytokines. એવી જ રીતે જ્યારે ફ્રોઝન શોલ્ડર શરૂ થાય ત્યારે એક્યુટ ઇન્ફ્લેમેશન ડેવલપ થાય જોઈન્ટ્સની અંદર, ત્યારે નિયોવાસ્ક્યુલેશન એટલે આ નવી વેસલ્સ ફોર્મ થાય અને એમાંથી સાઇટોકાઇન્સ રિલીઝ થાય. અનફોર્ચ્યુનેટલી એક્યુટ ઇન્ફ્લેમેશન ટર્ન્સ ઇન્ટુ ધ ક્રોનિક ઇન્ફ્લેમેશન અને એને કારણે કન્ટિન્યુઅસ પેઇન રહે છે પેશન્ટને અને શોલ્ડર જોઈન્ટની મુવમેન્ટ ઘણી બધી રિસ્ટ્રિક્ટેડ થઈ ગયા છે. સો ધીસ હેપન ઇન ટુ ફ્રીઝિંગ સ્ટેજ. સેકન્ડ વન ઇઝ કોલ્ડ ફ્રોઝન સ્ટેજ. ફ્રોઝન સ્ટેજની અંદર શું થાય કે લિગામેન્ટ્સ એન્ડ કેપ્સ્યુલ્સ આર રિપ્લેસ બાય ધ ફાઇબ્રોટિક ટિશ્યુ, એટલે પેઇન ઓછું થઈ જાય પણ પેશન્ટની જે શોલ્ડર જોઈન્ટની મુવમેન્ટ છે એ રિસ્ટ્રિક્ટેડ રહે છે. એન્ડ થર્ડ વન ઇઝ કોલ્ડ થ્રોઈંગ ફેઝ. થ્રોઈંગ ફેઝની અંદર શું થાય છે કે આ જે શોલ્ડર જોઈન્ટની મુવમેન્ટ છે એની અંદર કેપ્સ્યુલમાં જે ફાઇબ્રોટિક ટિશ્યુ છે એનું બ્રેકડાઉન શરૂ થાય અને એના કારણે જ અગેન પેશન્ટની શોલ્ડર જોઈન્ટની મુવમેન્ટ અગેન રીગેન થવાની ચાલુ થાય. So all these process happen into the different stages of frozen shoulder. Now let's see how we can stop it. How can we stop this process of frozen shoulder disease from the shoulder joint? So basically આપણે સમજીએ કે ફ્રોઝન શોલ્ડર જોઈન્ટની અંદર ક્રોનિક ઇન્ફ્લેમેટરી પ્રોસેસ ચાલી રહી છે અને એ ક્રોનિક ઇન્ફ્લેમેટરી પ્રોસેસ છે એ જે ચાલી રહી છે એનું કારણ છે કે અંદર સાઇટોકાઇન્સ કન્ટિન્યુઅસલી રિલીઝ થઈ રહ્યા છે. જો આપણે સાઇટોકાઇન્સની રિલીઝ અટકાવી દઈએ તો આ પ્રોસેસ અંદર અટકી શકે. નાઉ ધ નેક્સ્ટ ક્વેશ્ચન ઇઝ કે સાઇટોકાઇન્સ ક્યાંથી રિલીઝ થઈ રહ્યા છે? તો સાઇટોકાઇન્સ આર રિલીઝ ફ્રોમ ધીસ ન્યુલી ફોર્મ માઇક્રોવેસલ્સ. જો આ નવી જે માઇક્રોવેસલ્સ જે ફોર્મ થઈ છે એને આપણે જો એમ્બોલાઇઝ કરીને બંધ કરી દઈએ તો સાઇટોકાઇન્સની રિલીઝ અટકી જાય. જો સાઇટોકાઇન્સની રિલીઝ અટકે તો એનો મતલબ કે ત્યાં ક્રોનિક ઇન્ફ્લેમેટરી પ્રોસેસ અટકી જાય અને એ અટકે તો આ ડિઝીઝ ત્યાંથી એલિમિનેટ થઈ શકે. Now let's have a look in practical cases. These are 68 years old female patient suffering from frozen shoulders since last 2 years. આ જે એમ્બોલાઇઝેશનની આખી પ્રોસેસ છે એ એન્જિયોગ્રાફી કરીને કરવામાં આવે છે. જેમ આપણે હાર્ટની એન્જિયોગ્રાફી કરીએ છીએ એવી જ રીતે જ્યારે આ શોલ્ડર જોઈન્ટની મૂવમેન્ટ આપણે એન્જિયોગ્રાફી કરી. ધીઝ એરિયા ઓફ શોલ્ડર જોઈન્ટ, એમાં તમે જોશો તો ધીઝ આર ધ બ્રાન્ચીસ ઓફ ધીઝ બ્લડ વેસલ્સ. ધીઝ એરિયા જ્યાં મેડિકલ ટર્મિઝમમાં કહીએ કે વાસ્ક્યુલર બ્લશ અથવા કાળા કલરનું ધબ્બું દેખાય છે, ધીઝ એરિયા ઓફ નિયોવાસ્ક્યુલેશન કે ત્યાં નવી વેસલ્સ ફોર્મ થઈ છે અને ત્યાંથી કન્ટિન્યુઅસ ક્રોનિક ઇન્ફ્લેમેટરી પ્રોસેસ ચાલુ છે. So we identify this area first and we selectively canalize this artery which is supplying to this area and એમાં small particles જેને embolizing particles કહીએ છીએ embolizing particles અમે ઇન્જેક્ટ કરીએ તો ક્લિયરલી એના પછીનું પિક્ચર જો તમે એન્જિયોગ્રાફી જોશો તો આ એરિયામાંથી એ વાસ્ક્યુલર બ્લશ કે એ કાળો ડાઘો એ ડિસેપેર થઈ ગયો છે. એનો મતલબ કે અહીંયાથી આ પ્રોસેસ અટકી ગઈ છે અને એના પછીના તમે રિઝલ્ટ જોશો તો પેશન્ટ્સ જે ઇન્ટર રોટેશનમાં પહેલા એનો હાથ અહીંયા સુધી જતો હતો, ઇમિડિયેટલી આફ્ટર પ્રોસિજર એમનો ઉપર થોડો વધારે ઉપર જવા માટે અને વિધિન 6 months એની એન્ટાયર મુવમેન્ટ ઇટ કમ્સ નોર્મલ. બિફોર પ્રોસિજર 60 ડિગ્રી સુધી જતો હતો અને આફ્ટર પ્રોસિજર 80 ડિગ્રી સુધી થઈ ગયું. વિધિન 6 months ઓલમોસ્ટ આ મુવમેન્ટ ઇઝ વીગેન નોર્મલ. This is again the second case, 49 years old woman presented with 13 months of restricted joint movement. And અહીંયા તમે જોશો તો there are 3 areas of vascular blush. Humerals પાસે, one is axillary pouch પાસે અને આ intertubular region પાસે. These are the area of vascular blush. એને એમ્બોલાઇઝ કર્યા, નાના પાર્ટિકલ્સ નાખી અને પાર્ટિકલ્સ નાખ્યા પછી જોઈશું તો એની મૂવમેન્ટ સિગ્નિફિકન્ટલી રીગેઇન કરી શક્યા. સો અલ્ટિમેટલી જ્યારે આપણે એન્જિયોગ્રાફી કરીએ છીએ ત્યારે આ જે શોલ્ડર જોઈન્ટની આર્ટરી છે આવી નોર્મલ દેખાતી હોય, પણ જ્યારે એબ્નોર્મલ ફ્રોઝન શોલ્ડર હોય ત્યારે આવા કાળા કલરના ધબ્બા જેને વાસ્ક્યુલર બ્લશ કહીએ એ જોવા મળે અને એની અંદર જ્યારે આપણે એમ્બોલાઇઝેશન કરીએ છીએ તો આ પ્રોસેસ અટકી જાય છે અને ઇટ વર્ક્સ વન્ડરફુલી. નાઉ એક ક્વેશ્ચન એ આવે છે કે વાય એમ્બોલાઇઝેશન ઓફ એબ્નોર્મલ વેસલ્સ રિલીવ ધ પેઇન? સો ફર્સ્ટ આન્સર ઇઝ improving the inflammatory condition. ત્યાં inflammatory condition improve થાય છે, chronic inflammatory process બંધ થઈ જાય છે, that's why pain relief થાય છે. અને second thing is that in many studies always તમે જોશો તો arteries and nerves are commonly grow together. Histopathology સ્લાઇડમાં જોશો તો artery and nerves and veins, these 3 bunches are always growing together. જ્યારે આપણે આર્ટરીને બંધ કરીએ છીએ જે માઇક્રોવેસલ છે તો એની જોડે જે સેન્સરી નર્વ જે ડેવલપ થઈ છે, ગ્રો થયો છે, એને પણ એ બંધ થાય છે અને એને કારણે આ પેઇનનું સિગ્નલ છે એ કેરી કરવાનું બંધ થાય છે. એન્ડ ધેટ્સ વાય આ જ્યારે ફ્રોઝન શોલ્ડર એમ્બોલાઇઝેશન કર્યા પછી આ પેશન્ટનું પેઇન જતું રહે છે. These are the different studies which shows that this treatment works wonderfully. So, and results with the frozen shoulder embolization, pain reduces significantly. જ્યારે રેસ્ટ પેઇન જે કહીએ કે પેશન્ટ જ્યારે રાતે ઊંઘતું હોય અથવા તો આરામ કરતો હોય, શોલ્ડર જોઈન્ટ ના વાપરતો હોય, એ પેઇન તો કન્ટિન્યુઅસલી જતું રહે છે. અને રેન્જ ઓફ મૂવમેન્ટ ઓફ ધ ફ્રોઝન શોલ્ડર ઇઝ સિગ્નિફિકન્ટલી ઇમ્પ્રુવડ વિથ ધીસ ટેકનોલોજી. Its advantage is that there is no surgery. It's done with a needle puncture. It's a day care procedure. Patient સવારે આવે અને સાંજે જતું રહે. It reduces the pain and recovers range of movement of shoulder joint very faster. અને આ 3 સ્ટેજમાંથી જો ફર્સ્ટ સ્ટેજની અંદર જો આપણે એક્શન લઈએ તો શોલ્ડર જોઈન્ટની કેપ્સ્યુલને આ ફર્ધર ડેમેજ પણ આપણે અટકાવી શકીએ છીએ અને રિઝલ્ટ્સ બહુ સારા મળે છે. So ultimately, frozen shoulder is very helpful. Frozen shoulder embolization is very helpful for all the patients, and it works wonderfully. Thank you so much. So now, for next talk, I would invite Dr. Amit. Dr. Amit is a good friend of mine, and Amit, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am there.
Yeah, so he is a senior lecturer and PG guide in JG College of Physiotherapy. He's a very hard-working guy, and his hard work is appreciated not only nationally but internationally also. And he is invited guest faculty in USA and Geneva. So I invite Dr. Amit. Amit, to take over your talk.
Yes, good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Amit Patel. Okay, so today we will go with the physiotherapeutic regimen in a frozen shoulder. So basically, Mohal sir has beautifully explained about the anatomy as well as the clinical test for the frozen shoulder. So we will quickly go through the topic, that is frozen shoulder is also known as the adhesive capsulitis. It is the disorder characterized by the pain and the stiffness and the restriction of the motion of the shoulder joints. Approximately affects the 2% of the general population. The common, it is more seen in the women and also in the males between the ages of 40 years to 70 years old. So in the figure, as you can see, there is inflammation and the thickening of the shoulder capsule, which is being more evident in such patients. They are gamut of all the causes because of the aging, the posture, especially the rounded shoulders, the shoulder intensive sports, some of the occupations repetitive, where there is a repetitive manual occupation is involved. In type 1 and type 2 diabetes patients, trauma, post-traumatic conditions, it is most seen in the immobilization phase whenever the splinting has been done, fracture of the collarbone or the clavicle or the humerus, and after some of the surgeries, especially over the shoulder joint or after the mastectomy with breast reconstruction has been done. So as sir had told, there are 3 stages that are being involved. Stage 1 is a freezing stage, which lasts from 6 weeks to some months. Stage 2 is the frozen stage. There is a marked improvement of the pain. There is a decrease in the pain, but the stiffness remains. So it lasts from 4 months to 9 months. And as the stage 3 is the thawing stage. So here the shoulder movement slowly returns. There is a breakage in the fibrosis of over the capsular structure, and it lasts from 5 months to 26 months, depending upon the age and the condition of the patient. So symptoms. So here, basically the pain is there over the frozen area. There is a frozen shoulder, and there is an aching. It may be worsened with attempted motion. The movements of the shoulder area is very restricted, especially the abduction and external rotation has been restricted. The other movements can also be restricted according to the capsular structure, especially the anterior-inferior part of the capsule is more involved in some of the cases. So what is the treatment? So it usually the frozen shoulder will get better on its own. It is a self-limiting condition. Sometimes it happens that without any treatment also, after 2 or 3 years, the patient might have a full range of motion, but it is usually depending upon the condition of the patient, and restriction is usually being seen. The aim of the physiotherapy treatment, the first and foremost, is the pain control, and the further on to restore the motion. So physiotherapy is usually it should be started as soon as possible under the direct supervision of the therapist, as well as the home program is being taught to the patient. So the therapy usually includes the stretching, the basic range of motion exercises, and the heat treatment. There is a through and through heating of the shoulder joint is being facilitated by the therapist at the OPD or the hospital. So coming to the first part, the manual therapy, there is a specialized manual therapy mobilization of the shoulder joint has been carried out by the therapist. There are various of the shoulder joint mobilization techniques, which only a qualified therapist can give it to the patient. The Maitland mobilization, the Mulligan, the Kaltenball mobilization. So here the basic principles of each and every mobilization technique is different. Today's lecture, I could not go in detail because it is a time constraint, but these all of the techniques are different according to the patient, in which stage the patient comes to you, whether it is stage 1, stage 2 or stage 3. There is a freezing, frozen or the thawing stage. According to it, the grades of the mobilization are being administered to the patient. The next, the electrotherapy modalities. So the shortwave diathermy is being given for increasing the blood circulation. Secondly, the transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation for decreasing the pain over the shoulder area. So here, the pain gate mechanism at the spinal level has been affected. The interferential therapy, again, it decreases the pain. The physical rehabilitation part, basically it is the home rehabilitation techniques for the general mobilization of the shoulder, and exercises have been taught to the patient. I will illustrate some of them. That is the pendular exercises, that is leaning forward with the support. The flexion and extension movements are being facilitated. The bond exercises, that is in the setting the patient holds a stick and he is being taught about the rotation components of the shoulder. Arm overhead activities, again, is an active assisted type of the exercises. With the opposite shoulder, the patient can perform the flexion extension of the shoulder movements again. Twisting outwards, arm overhead, that is the rotation component, as well as the horizontal abduction adduction are being facilitated for smoothly stretching the pectorals group of the muscles. Kneeling on the force, that is with the help of the body weight, the patient is able to mobilize his shoulder. The pulley exercises, along with it, self-assisted, the patient is able to perform the flexion extension as well as the abduction movement in the frontal as well as the sagittal plane of action of movement. Stretching of the posterior capsule, the patient is able to do it on his own. The towel exercises, especially for the rotation component, as well as the self-assisted, the patient can hold his arm in the backward direction and then he can facilitate the rotation component, internal external rotation of the shoulder. So what are the take-home messages? So first and foremost, for the therapist, it is the identification of the site of the pain area, specific and particular diagnosis of the condition, what are the mechanical causes of the painful tissue, and rule out the differential diagnosis, because the frozen shoulder would also replicate some of the other conditions. So differential diagnosis is very, very important. Always integrate the exercises with education of the activities of the daily living and correction of the sustained and the proper positions of the shoulder joint, and the ADL activities are also to be assessed, and ergonomic advice has to be given to the patient. So here the diagnosis specific treatment should result in the cessation of the patient's symptoms. So main and foremost is the patient comes to you because of the pain, restriction of the range of motion. So diagnosis and the treatment should go hand in hand, and thus it will help in the improving of the functional activities and improving the life of the patient. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Over to you, Mol sir.
So thank you, Amit, for your nice talk. It's very elaborative and eye-opening. So now I would like to invite Dr. Mihir. He is a principal in JG College of Physiotherapy. He has more than 10 years of experience in the field of physiotherapy in 2021. And you know, we know about the robotics, right? There are robotics અત્યારે ઘણા બધા ન્યૂઝમાં ચાલે છે. But do we know that robotics are very, very useful for a physiotherapy also? And right now, the trend is going towards robotics physiotherapy. And there is a new emerging technique, and Dr. Mihir Dev Zala is going to introduce us with this new technique. Over to you, Dr. Mihir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Good morning to all the viewers out there. I'll request Dr. Amit, sir, to unshare your screen. Yeah, so my topic of discussion today is Introduction to Robotics in Neurorehabilitation. So the term itself says robotics. So first of all, what is robotics? What do you understand by the term robotics? It's nothing but it's an interdisciplinary branch in which science, technology, and here neurosciences integrate with each other, and which the outcome which robotics gives us is helping or assisting in movement of individual with neuro disorders like stroke, spinal cord injuries, and many more, where the human is unable to do active movements, where a physiotherapist will get assistance by robotics in doing exercises, in bringing back the motor movements which is lost because of the brain damage or because of the brain injury. So first of all, I like to introduce that what happens when the brain damages, any damage, whether it's a traumatic injury or whether it's a non-traumatic damage to the brain. First of all, when the brain is damaged, what happens is the supraspinal control is lost over the lower centers, over the lower motor neurons. So ultimately what happens is the desired movement is hampered. The patient is unable to do a desired movement. Either it is a total paralysis, either it is a flaccid paralysis, or at times it's a spastic paralysis. Okay. So what happens is we get a mass movement. Whenever we ask the patient to do a movement, when there is a brain injury, we usually tend to get a mass movement. So if we ask the patient to do a shoulder flexion, he won't be able to do an isolated shoulder flexion, but he will be doing shoulder flexion with elbow flexion and wrist flexion, and fist will be seen during the movement. Okay, fist making will be seen. So that's the mass movement we see. So what the neurosciences say is, when we ask the patient to practice again and again the desired movement, so that movement will turn into motor engrams in the brain, which will store the pattern of movement in the brain, and ultimately the desired movement we will get in coming months or coming years. That's what we see in, and that's what we call it as neuroplasticity. Okay, neuroplasticity is nothing but a term where a brain has a capacity to change. The brain has a capacity to rewire the neurons which are damaged. The brain has a capacity to reorganize, and in short, we can use one term like cortical remapping. So again, the remapping happens. Again, the connection between the neurons strengthen, and again near normal movement which can be seen, which was lost earlier. So now, how to obtain neuroplasticity with the help of robotics and with the help of conventional basic neurophysiotherapy. So the difference is, you can see in this slide, we need strong synaptic activation to generate neuroplasticity in the brain. Okay, so you can see if the synaptic activation is weak, it does not change the synapse. So we do not get any good results in the patient. The motor learning is not that good. But if the synaptic activation is strong enough, you can see there is change in synaptic structures, and ultimately which will have a good strengthening of the connection between the neurons, and ultimately learning is good. And again, in learning, we need good reinforcement is required so that we can have a good motor relearning to the patient with brain injury. So the concept of robotics here is, we can impose high intensity training, we can impose high dosage of training by robotics, but in comparison to the manual physiotherapy, it is not possible, because we cannot mimic a near normal movement pattern when we ask the patient to do it manually, when a physiotherapist does it manually. But the robotics mimic the same physiological movement patterns in the patient who is paralyzed or who has lost the movement. So ultimately, the first importance of robotics is it will have a strong and frequent activation of the synapse in comparison with the conventional physiotherapy. So that's how the neuroplasticity develops, and that's how the motor relearning takes place. So the robots for neurorehabilitation are designed to support the administration of physical exercise for both upper limbs as well as lower extremities, with purpose of promoting motor recovery and neuroplasticity, as I said. Because the learned movement is lost in the brain damaged person. And again, relearning is supposed to be done. And again, the neuroplasticity has to be developed so as to gain motor relearning. So now, what is the usage of new technology? So it enhances motor learning of the patient, encourage use for different therapy activities. Technology is used for different therapy activities, like activities of daily living, sit to stand, walking, toileting activities. It can be used for the assessment as well as prognosis also. The robotics are not only used for training or rehabilitation, but it can also provide us with assessing the impairment in the patient, as well as the improvements during the therapy sessions could also be noted. That is, prognosis can also be done with the help of robotics. That can also be used for the improvement in the activity of daily living. So ultimately, the robotics will have a change in the cortical excitability, and slowly and gradually the higher centers, that is the cortical centers, will gain control, either full control or either limited control over the lower centers, and thereby improving the neuroplasticity and thereby improving the motor outcome of the patient. So I'll give you the brief idea about the types of instruments or type of the robotic machines which are used. So there are two types. One is end effector devices, which directly trains the hand and the lower limb. And there are exoskeletal or wearable robotics, which we make the patient to wear it, and then the therapy begins. So in the upper extremity, these are the trade names given: InMotion and KineArm endpoint, which usually train the upper extremities of the patient, where the upper extremities are fixed under the robotic device, and according to the patient's level of movement, according to the patient's power of the muscles, the robotics will adapt itself, and it will provide the resistance wherever it is needed, and it will provide the assistance wherever it is needed. So there are sensors inside the robotic machines which will know where the patient needs the help to do the movement and where the patient needs the resistance to train it. So that's how it works. Lower extremity, the robot assisted gait trainer is there, where the robot assists in providing the movement while walking. The same way, KineArm exoskeleton, Armio spring and power, and Locomet is a heavy weight device, and lightweight exoskeleton device are Exo, Indigo, and Revoke. I'll show you the pictures of this in the coming slides. See, these are the few robotic devices which are meant for rehab. The last one you see is Revoke exoskeleton, in which the patient lower limb is put into that device, and at the wrist in the hand there is a control specially used for the spinal cord injury patients. In that, automatically the patient comes into sit to stand position with the help of this device. In the upper limb, there is a crutch support is there, so the patient does not fall. And the therapists are also there to observe the movement and give the support. So with the assistance of this Revoke exoskeleton device, the patient is literally able to walk with zero power in the lower limb. Because of some connections issue at my place, I'm not able to show you the videos, but you can go to the YouTube and type Revoke robotics. You will be able to see it's a magical thing. The patient just feels like as if he's walking in spite of having zero muscle power. And that's how the neuronal plasticity develop and the patient is able to walk again. So these are some basic devices which will provide good sensory input to the patient, and ultimately good sensory input will produce a good motor output. Okay, so that's how the robotics therapy provide near normal physiological movement patterns to the patient. And that's how the motor relearning takes place. So the drawback is it's a very costly. These all devices are too costly to have it. But fortunately, in Ahmedabad, we have some good centers who are providing with robotics therapy. And the research also says that in comparison to conventional physiotherapy or conventional neurophysiotherapy, the robotic therapy have a good motor output or motor outcome, which really helps the patient to gain a good motor control. So I'll ask the friends, those who are knowing some relatives or having some neurological issues, the robotics is the boon for them to provide good and early recovery when it is given in an early phase of stroke or early phase of spinal cord injury. It will really help to provide good rehabilitation of upper extremity, trunk, as well as lower extremity. So this is in short about robotics in neurophysiotherapy. Thank you so much, everyone. Over to you, Mohal sir.
So thank you so much, Mir, for your elaborative talk. Robotic in physiotherapy is really new subject. And thank you so much, Mir. And now I would like to invite Dr. Pragnesh Vachhrajani. Pragnesh is a very good friend of mine, and આપણે આર્ટિફિશિયલ ઇન્ટેલિજન્સની ઘણી બધી વાતો થાય છે. આપણી ડે ટુ ડે લાઈફમાં આર્ટિફિશિયલ ઇન્ટેલિજન્સ ઘણું બધું વણાઈ ગયું છે, પણ આર્ટિફિશિયલ ઇન્ટેલિજન્સ ઇઝ ઓલ્સો given in our medical field also. And Dr. Pragnesh is the right person to introduce us with such kind of technical innovation into the medical field. 2020 માં જેટલા પણ આર્ટિફિશિયલ ઇન્ટેલિજન્સ થી ઇનોવેશન મેડિકલ ફિલ્ડમાં થયા છે એની બધાની આપણને માહિતી આપવા જઈ રહ્યા છે ડોક્ટર પ્રજ્ઞેશ. Dr. Pragneshની ઓળખાણ આપું તો he is a family physician and he is secretary in many organization. He himself organize these HITCON કરીને એક ટેકનિકલ ઇનોવેશનની કોન્ફરન્સ એવરી યરલી ઓર્ગેનાઇઝ કરે છે, જેમાં નવી ટેકનોલોજી જે મેડિકલ ફિલ્ડમાં ઇન્ટ્રોડ્યુસ થતી હોય એને આપણને માહિતગાર કરાવે છે. અને he is a past president of Ahmedabad Medical Association. So hand over to you, Dr. Pragnesh.
Thank you, Mohal. બહુ સારું બોલ્યો મારા વિશે એટલે. એન્ડ ફર્સ્ટ ઓફ ઓલ બહુ સરસ કોન્સેપ્ટ છે ને ઇટ્સ વેરી ગુડ ઇનોવેટિવ પ્લેટફોર્મ. એન્ડ આઈ ઓલવેઝ ગેટ ઇન્સ્પાયર્ડ કે બહુ સરસ અઘરા શબ્દો અને અઘરા ટોપિક સિલેક્ટ કરીને યુ આર ડિલિવરિંગ, બટ એન્ડ ઓફ ધ ડે ધી મોસ્ટ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ પાર્ટ ઇઝ યુ આર ડિલિવરિંગ ગુડ મેસેજ ટુ ધી મેડિકલ ફ્રેટર્નિટી ટુ રિમેન મોટિવેટેડ એન્ડ ટુ લવ ધ વર્ક દેટ દે ડુ. એન્ડ બધાને ખબર જ છે મોહલ ઇઝ એન એવિડ ટ્રાવેલર. So he always enlighten us on various aspects of traveling also. So બધા જોડાજો ખાસ અમારી સાથે. So good morning all. At the outset, જેમ મોહલે કીધું એમ there are a lot of innovations happening in the field of healthcare technology. And what I firmly believe is in the next coming decade, the most happening thing in the healthcare is going to help with the help of technology. હવે ડે ટુ ડે લાઈફ ઇઝ ચેન્જ. આપણે ઘણી બધી વસ્તુઓ આપણી ડે ટુ ડે લાઈફમાં ટેકનોલોજી સાથે વણાયેલી વાપરીએ જ છે. So in practice also we use a lot of things, and the future is very bright and very promising and very encouraging for the use of technology in healthcare. So what I've done is I have just obviously I've taken help from the various resources available online and zeroing in on some 5 innovations that I feel that need to be shared and everybody should be knowing about it. There are many, and a word of disclaimer that I am not a tech expert, but I am a tech enthusiast. So I've tried to balance out things, and I will try to show the videos also of the product that I am going to talk about. Kaik nana mota issues ave to all the videos are freely available on YouTube and the website of the various companies. And whatever solutions or things that I am going to show you, they are practical. Matlab, they are not incoming thing. They are already in. I always like the quote by Dr. Jawahar Jetwa sir, who is an avid medtech expert. કે આપણે ઘણી વાર એવું કહીએ છીએ કે આ બધી વસ્તુ આવી રહી છે. ના આ બધી વસ્તુ આવી ગઈ છે. તમે ત્યાં નહીં પહોંચો then you will be out. So everybody needs to get updated. Can I have my slides, please? Next, please. See, the future of health tech will revolve around 5 broad areas. If I say, one is health analytics, means the real-time monitoring through wearables. See, we read now and then the various companies, the big noticeable names in the field of technology who are in the world of in making wearables. Maybe say Google, Apple, and lot many who are making things connected and collecting huge amount of data from patients through various wearable devices. The next one is augmented analysis, as Mohan has rightly pointed out. The things like augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, they are the one who will be playing a very major role in the future therapeutics to come. Then the interoperability basically means this enables the various technologies that we use to exchange and analyze the data among them. So that is very important because we now use a lot of devices, a lot of gadgets, a lot of softwares. So ultimately everybody needs to work and talk to each other to make things seamless. Next, please. And blockchain, this is the basically you can say the core of the technologies that are going to come, and that is required for a secured things also to make things secure and prevent it from getting haywire and getting fall in the wrong hands. And AI and machine learning. So AI plays a very big role, and in a country like India, we sit on a huge amount of data when this has been channelized. And as I always said, whenever the technology companies develop something new with the help of doctors, there will be definitely wonders will be made. So in the next coming slides, I will be talking about, as I said, about the 5 most suitable innovations that I felt that need to be shared. Next, please. The first is the talk of the town, the mRNA vaccines, because we are in the era of pandemic. The work on the mRNA vaccines was done since quite a long, but the first result the first vaccine that we see in the market, as far as my knowledge goes, is the COVID vaccine. And we don't have this mRNA vaccine in India as of now, but we'll definitely get in a short period of time through various exchange programs that is happening across the world. The biggest benefit of RNA vaccines is they are faster and cheaper to produce than traditional vaccines. Say, for example, we have come to know there are various variants of COVID. There are genetic mutations that are happening in this thing. So we can go to the lab and alter the vaccine and come out with the vaccine that is effective against that variants also. So that is how easy and that will the way it will make things easy for us. Next, please. And this is the couple from the N Biotech who are the pioneers in this technology and the technical collaboration with Pfizer. They have come out with that mRNA vaccines. Next, please. The second one is the intubation port. You know, the COVID has taught us how vulnerable we healthcare workers are. And there were lots of lakhs of healthcare workers who get infected while treating patients of COVID. So COVID has highlighted us the importance of protecting the healthcare workers. So this is such a small innovation that is all officially available online in the USA, most probably not available in India. but which is the most easiest thing to be used in OT and ICUs, and where you can when you are in the bedside of the patient and you want to do some procedures, you need to protect the healthcare worker. Can I have the next slide, please? We'll show next video, please. Yes. So this shows basically the real OT setup, that how the pod is placed on the head end of the patient, and there are various pods are created wherein the anesthetists or the intensivists can work through, can insert something, some tubes and things from other side, can do intubation from one side and protect the healthcare workers. Next, please. Then the third thing is the communication. We know in the time of crisis, the communication makes the biggest thing, and when we have to pick up the phone and call somebody in the time of crisis, it becomes a difficult affair. So this is a Vocera. Basically, it's a hand-free communication tool that enables the nurses, doctors, and other team members to coordinate and communicate it with each other in a real time. That's a very small device. You can just clip in here or at any other place, and you can securely call. You can send messages. You can put distress messages. For example, say code red, code 9, the code blue, something like that. Immediately, the entire system get alerted. They are connected basically, and when you want privacy, you can just pick it up like phone and talk to your colleague also. Next, please. Can you have the video, please? Next. This is the device, and play the video, please. So this is a very small, beautiful thing, and which can be used across in the various departments, especially in ER. And you can connect. You can ask for lab requisition. You can call somebody. You can send message in real time. And these are antimicrobial resistant material, so it can connect to the cascade whenever you need to work faster, and you can the doctors can have both the hands free while treating the patient or doing some procedure. So for doing communication, you don't need to interrupt and use your one hand something. Next, please. The fourth is the revolution in the field of surgery, as we are talking about this genicular artery embolism as a therapeutic treatment for the knee pain and everything. So time will come that surgeons would like to just pop in, want to go in and see what exactly is happening. The thing, that the white thing that you see on the other side, it is the headgear that the doctor has to wear on his face. It is quite adjustable and flexible. And again, this is a reality. There are spine surgeon in USA uses this technology and operate patient using this thing. So this gives you a simple 3D vision, because normally what happens is whenever the surgeon is operating, surgeon is doing some work here and is looking at the screen on the other side. So this gives a reality 3D view. Just you are peeping through the skin. Can we have the video, please? Next slide. So it is a groundbreaking this thing, and you can just see that the surgeon sees everything in front of his eyes while just popping. He is just inserting a thing and see the see-through skin, so he can do the exact procedure. It is now basically used in spine, but I'm very sure that in a short span of time, everything will come. That in the other aspects, other branches of surgery, this will also going to come and will revolutionize the way the surgeons operate with the precision, and things will happen. So this is the solution that is available. And the last one, next please. This is the most important part, that is VT AR. And you must have seen the article in today's newspaper also about the various methods they are used in artificial intelligence and this. So this is a very useful tool for training basically. You know, medicine is an ever evolving branch. See, I am damn sure that whenever this genicular artery embolism was started, there has to be a learning curve. Whenever you learn something new surgical technique, there is always a learning curve. So to smoothen the learning curve and to adapt the technology faster, we need a good training module. And not only the company in USA, I know there are solutions developed by IIT Madras and other institutes here in India also, wherein there are this virtual reality consoles where medical students, doctors can sit in and they can learn this with the help of simulation. They can learn faster. So as I know, this thing being used in India in case of IVF the embryo pickup and transfer, and a lot of things have been taught to the doctors using these simulations. Next, please. Can we have the video, please? Next. So they have made this 3D model of humans. So you can just simply go into, as if you are walking in the hospital and talking to the patient and examine the patient and do this thing. So this creates a real life experience. So when you are faced with a similar situation, as already been taught by other speaker, when you taught your brain that if such thing happens, you need to react in such a way. This is ultimately based on the same therapy. So this is useful for medical students, for doctors in practice, and a lot more. Next, please. So that's all from my side. And as I already said, the technology is always an exciting thing for doctors. So please connect, please adapt, and that's the way to go. Thank you for listening patiently. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pragnesh. It's really, your talk is very enlightening. આટલા બધા નવા innovation આવી ગયા, આપણે તો ઘરે બેઠા ખ્યાલ જ ના આવે. અને these are really very interesting thing કે તમે 3D માં જોઈ નાખી સર્જરી કરી શકો તો સર્જન્સની લાઈફ કેટલી બધી ઈઝી થઈ જાય એમ.
Yes.
નેલ કઈ જગ્યાએ જઈ રહ્યો છે એની કોઈ ટેન્શન જ નહીં કરવાનું, ત્યાં દેખાય જ છે. એટલે
there is no blinding basically.
હા, the results are very superior અને આ બધાના કારણે.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Pragnesh. Now for next talk, I would like to invite Dr. Maulik Shah. Maulik is a very good friend of mine. Right now, he is head of the department into the Medical College of Jamnagar. A part of he is a head of the department. He is very hardcore academician, and also he is very good social media influencer. એની પોતાની ગુજ મોમ કરીને YouTube ચેનલ ચાલે છે, એમાં નવા એટલા બધા વિડીયોઝ મૂકે છે, અને there are more than 10,000 subscriber for his channels. હું પણ એની નાની જે વિડીયોઝ છે જોવાની એટલી બધી મજા આવે. It's very informative. And Dr. Maulik is going to show us how Google will work for us. Dr. Maulik, I would hand over mic to you.
થેન્ક યુ સો મચ મોહલ. ઘણી સારી પ્રસ્તાવના. હવે આજનું જે આપણું પ્રેઝન્ટેશન છે એના તરફ જઈએ તો સૌથી પહેલા તો આજના આ ટોક માટે ગૂગલે મને કોઈ લંચ પે નથી કર્યું કે પૂરું થયા પછી કોઈ 5 સ્ટારમાં ડિનર માટે લઈ નથી જવાના. એટલે આ સંપૂર્ણપણે નોન કમ્પિટિંગ, નોન ફાઇનાન્શિયલ ઇન્ટરેસ્ટ ટોક છે. સો લેટ અસ મૂવ અહેડ. 2010ની સાલમાં I hope I will be conversating in 2 languages, so people may take good interest into that, and we can break into our neurons, which is usually accepting Gujarati very well. So when we see a scene from 2010 where a new neighbor has just arrived in the neighborhood and her daughter is ill, so she asks that she needs a favor to go to a pediatrician. Can you suggest somebody? And a friendly neighborhood like one of us will take us to the nearest pediatrician whom we know, and the doctor sees the girl, treats the girl, and the mother is happy, everyone is happy. So that's what the usual scene we have seen in 2010, that people used to take to the doctor they know. So this is a mouth to mouth publicity. Nowadays, in COVID times, we have seen that the online things have increased. So in 2021, in this year, if some mother is having need of a pediatrician, she will ask to Google Baba that Google Baba bataiye ki who is the best pediatrician in the city? Where should I take my girl? And Google Baba will say that ABC is available. Go to the A, who is the best. And that's how they go to a particular pediatrician. And Google Baba takes them onto the Google search page, and Google search page shows this many pediatricians who are available. So you can choose according to the reviews, you can choose according to the location, you can choose according to your time and other convenience. The $1 million question is that who is going to top this search list? Because unless you are topping this search list, you are not likely to get referrals. You are not likely to get patients' own reference for consultation. So we need to top the list. So whom do the Google put them on the first or the second on the list? So we need to go into Google's brain and we need to be setting into the formula of Google or the Google algorithm so that the patient searches us and we are being found. So the point here is that in 2021, the COVID has taught us that online and offline, both the publicity is important, especially since the online searches for doctor are increasing and there are a lot of many platforms that particularly patients are approaching to. So naturally your online presence or your web presence is must nowadays. And unless you are there and active, you will not get even the offline references also. So be smart and optimize your web presence. That is what we are going to discuss in next few minutes. Number one thing what you should use, I'm coming directly to the point, is Google My Business. આ એક એવું ટૂલ છે કે જે ફ્રી ઓફ ચાર્જ છે, જે મોબાઈલથી અને તમારા ડેસ્કટોપ પરથી તમે બહુ આસાનીથી એપ્રોચ કરી શકો છો. ઇટ્સ અવેલેબલ free of cost on both the platforms, very easily for iOS or even Android users. You can approach that, very easy to settle up an account on Google My Business, and once it verifies you, it's really works for you. How does it work? We'll see. Second point is you need to have Google Plus ID and pages so that you can be approached and you can be identified and verified by Google that he is not a machine or not an AI based thing, but he is a real person doing a real work. So let us go to Google My Business. Google My Business I have suggested you, and it is available through your computer links, also as through the Android or iOS app also. When you are registered on Google My Business, naturally, for example, I have taken an example of a dentist who is in our city. His name is Mehul Kakaria. So when I go and type Mehul Kakaria on Google, then he takes me to this many pages also. And the most fascinating part on the Google is on the right column. You can see that the beautiful photograph of his clinic is there. The location picture is there. And then on the downside, you get here the most Google reviews, which patients usually see. As if we go on to Amazon and buy a product, we often tend to see the reviews which are given 5-star or 4-star. We often tend to fall in love with them. So here also we see that particular reviews given to a particular clinic or a doctor usually tend to be impressioning the patient very well. Second thing usually they are concerned is where is the clinic. Then they also want to know whether the clinic is right now open or not, how to approach. So all of those things, what your patient needs is being served very well in the plate they desire. So address is there, hours of opening and closing is there, phone number is given, the how to book your appointments is also there. So all those things, and even you can ask a question to that particular person, and these are all free services delivered to your patient or anybody on the web who tries to approach you. So that's the basic thing you should have, simply because patients need it and we need to serve them. So that's the thing. કાર્ડ આપીને છૂટી જતા હતા કે છાપામાં જાહેરાત આપીને છૂટી જતા હતા, એ જમાનો ગયો. હવે આપણે ગૂગલ બાબાના મગજમાં ઘૂસી જવાનું છે કે ગૂગલ બાબા બધાને આપણું નામ જ કે. સો ધેટ્સ વોટ ધી પોઈન્ટ ઇઝ. હવે આપણા આજના હોસ્ટ મોહલભાઈ બેંકર, મોહલભાઈ બેંકરના બે કાન ઉભા થઈ ગયા છે, હું જોઈ શકું છું સ્ક્રીન પર. સો ધેટ્સ how Mohal Banker, I search for Mohal Banker, and again the same thing. Look at the beautiful thing that on right side his photograph of clinic and also the photograph of the location is there, the website directions, everything is there. There are good 27 Google reviews are available. Many things are listed. Now most beautiful thing about this thing is that this comes very automatically and this can be edited very well according to the customized. For example, suppose for 7 days my clinic works with different doctors. So I can change this page on day-to-day basis, that today Dr. Mohal Banker is seeing in the clinic this sort of patients. Tomorrow there will be Dr. Maulik Shah who will be visiting this clinic and he will be doing such and such things. And then afterwards, third day, the next doctor is going to, this is the appointments, this is the things what we are serving at our clinic. All these things can be customized and presentable way you want to present to a patient. So that's the most easiest thing what we can do. and this looks very beautiful and people often appreciate it more. Google My Business is free of charge thing. They just need you to verify your account and they just need to verify your address. As soon as you log in and you sign in for all those accounts, they generally send you particularly a mail, offline mail, that is a postcard sort of thing or a letter sort of thing. Once that letter with a particular OTP comes to your home or your clinic and you feedback that again, putting that OTP into the Google My Business account, your account is automatically verified. Once it is verified, they give everything what they want to show to the particular person who is searching for your name. So that's how Google My Business is beautifully working. It gives everything what your patient needs, and that's also free of charge, may it be on any device or any kind of interface they are using. And just like that, if we want to impress a particular person, say for example, we want to impress the father because we want to marry the girl of that father, we need to impress the brother of that family or the girl, and we need to also impress upon the mother of the girl. Just like that, if you want to impress Google Baba, you need to here also impress upon, and you need to have accounts like on other apps of Google, like YouTube, Blogger, or you may be having nowadays mail. Gmail is almost always there because we are using Android devices. So once you are using these Google apps also, they also give a good impression back to the Google central server that this guy is really phenomenal and he is having so much of backlinks and he is a real good person. So Google tends to give you good review. Google tends to put you higher up in their search list. The technical term which is commonly used here for the this particular purpose is search engine optimization. But since we are talking to a doctor audience primarily, I think most of us will find it a jargon rather than a technical term. So let's follow that. Then you need to have other accounts like Facebook or Twitter or wherever you are active on social media handle. Just give a shot on them after a few intervals of few days, so that the backlinks are created. Backlinks means શું છે કે ભાઈ આ વ્યક્તિ બીજી બધી જગ્યાએ પણ દેખાઈ રહ્યો છે, મતલબ કે આ એક ઘોસ્ટ નથી પણ એક રિયલ વ્યક્તિ છે જે બહુ પોપ્યુલર છે. સો ફેસબુક માંથી પણ એક બેકલિંક મળશે, ટ્વિટર માંથી પણ એક બેકલિંક મળશે. You will get also it from Blogger. Everywhere you are active or everywhere where your article or your presentation or your video is active, you might get a backlink, and backlinks are really important. આપણા મૂળિયાઓ વધારે જમીનમાં ઉતારવા માટે આ જરૂરી છે. પણ unfortunately Google is underutilized. જે free હોય ને એમાં આપણને બહુ interest ન પડે, અને unfortunately એને કારણે Google ની આ free services પણ underutilized છે. કારણ શું છે? કારણ કદાચ લોકો ઓછું જાણે છે કે આ વસ્તુ ફ્રી છે અને આને વાપરવાથી આટલા ફાયદા થશે. કદાચ લોકો એવું માને છે કે આ બહુ જ કોસ્ટલી હશે અથવા તો આમાં આપણે બહુ પૈસા ખર્ચવા પડશે. Maybe most of the times we go to the technical person to make our own website, and these people often do not introduce such services of Google which are free to us. And lastly, SEO or the search engine optimization is a very vast and technically advanced field. So we often do not come across such simple, easy to do tasks. So let us deep dive a little bit into these SEOs or the search engine optimization. બહુ ઉપર છલ્લું કહેવાનો છું, પણ સાંભળવાથી કદાચ ક્યારેક ફાયદો થશે. Pick up the right website address and domain. આપણે દાખલા તરીકે મોહલભાઈ બેન્કરની વેબસાઇટ છે તો એમાં હોય mohalbanker.in. હવે આ મોહલભાઈ બેન્કર કોઈ રાષ્ટ્રપતિ કે પ્રાઇમ મિનિસ્ટર નથી કે એમનું નામ બધાને આવડતું હોય, પણ ધારો કે એમનું નામ વેબસાઇટનું એવી રીતે હોય કે the best varicose vein expert.in, તો વધારેમાં વધારે લોકો એના ઉપર જશે. બરાબર? So nothing offensive against Mohal, but we all do such mistakes. For example, I would like to put my name and my website on that, and I will put maulikshah.in. But Maulik Shah is not Narendra Modi people are going to search for. They are going to search bestpediatrician.in or bestpediatrician in jamnagar.in. તો આપણું વેબસાઇટનું ડોમેન એવું હોવું જોઈએ કે લોકો સર્ચ કરે, કીવર્ડ્સ જ્યારે ગૂગલમાં નાખે ત્યારે એને સીધું આપણું નામ મળે. બરાબર? So that's the first most important thing one need to do when we are planning for a website. બીજું, ત્યારે તમારું ટ્વિટર હેન્ડલ, ફેસબુકનું નામ આ બધું પસંદ કરો ત્યારે એ પણ સેમ તમારા ડોમેનને અનુરૂપ જ હોવું જોઈએ. બરાબર, દાખલા તરીકે બેસ્ટ પીડિયાટ્રિશિયન @Twitter, બરાબર, like that. So you should also have a name accordingly so that everywhere your brand product are very well highlighted and easy to search. વેબસાઇટના કન્સ્ટ્રક્શનમાં જે લોકલ પેજીસ છે, ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ માય location and other things need to be very well established so that Google can take direct backlink from that and Google says, okay, location is same what we are verified. So that gives a better chance of search engine optimization. Then the citation authority and content syndications are also there, but let's not go right now into that. These are all advanced little features. So in website structures, local pages નો મતલબ શું કરવાનો? તો કે તમારું એડ્રેસ હોવું જોઈએ, બિઝનેસ અવર્સ હોવા જોઈએ, સર્વિસીસ તમે શું પ્રોવાઈડ કરો છો, આ બધી વસ્તુઓ હોવી જોઈએ એના પર. તો આ બધી વસ્તુઓ જે છે એ તમારા વેબસાઇટમાં હોવું જોઈએ. કન્ટેન્ટનું સિન્ડિકેશન, તમે સરસ આર્ટિકલ લખો, લોકોને પ્રેરિત કરો, મલ્ટિપલ સોશિયલ મીડિયા હેન્ડલ પર એને પ્રસારિત કરો, શેર કરો, સો દેટ Google sees કે ભાઈ આ માણસના મૂળિયા બહુ ઊંડે સુધી રોપાયેલા છે, મલ્ટિપલ વેબસાઇટમાં મલ્ટિપલ લોકો આને જોઈ રહ્યા છે, જુદી જુદી રીતે આ માણસ પ્રાપ્ય છે, he is a popular guy, let's put him on the top. So that's how the content syndication or backlinks are generated. Backlinks are very important when you are trying to go for search engine optimization. હવે આ બધામાં આપણને તકલીફ શું છે? What are the cons? આપણે જ્યારે પ્રોફેશનલ વેબસાઇટ્સ પસંદ કરીએ છીએ અને પ્રોફેશનલી ડિઝાઇન કરાવીએ છીએ, અથવા માની લો કે હું પ્રોએક્ટો ઉપર છું એક્ટિવ, હું જસ્ટ ડાયલ ઉપર છું, તો મારે જ્યારે આની ઉપર ટોપમાં જવું હશે ને તો મારે પૈસા ખર્ચવા પડશે. જસ્ટ ડાયલ મને પહેલો નંબર નહીં આપે જો હું એને પૈસા નહીં ચૂકવું તો, બરાબર. બટ ઇફ આઈ પે ધેમ, દે આર ગોઈંગ ટુ પુટ ઇટ એઝ અ સ્પોન્સર્ડ બટ priority on the top list. So you need to put money if you are going to spend it through professional websites and specifically sponsored way. Google પણ sponsored way આપે છે, પણ અલ્ટિમેટલી જે ફ્રી છે એના માટે સ્પોન્સર્ડ થવું અથવા પૈસા ખર્ચવા એ મારી દ્રષ્ટિએ યોગ્ય નથી. ઘણી બધી વખત આવા પેજીસની લોકલ ઇમ્પેક્ટ જ હોય છે, દે આર નોટ હેવિંગ ગ્લોબલ ઇમ્પેક્ટ. અને બીજું, આપણે બધા જાણીએ છીએ કે સ્પોન્સર્ડ લખેલું આવે એટલે આપણો વિશ્વાસ જરા ડગમગી જતો હોય છે. વી ડુ નોટ ટેક ઇન્ટરેસ્ટ ઇન ધેટ પર્ટિક્યુલર recommendation which is sponsored. So we often do not click that product link or we do not try to open up that thing. So please don't go for putting the sponsored links on Google or any other search engines. They are not going to work as good as it is a generic or if it is earned by your own way. હવે થોડી વસ્તુઓ સોશિયલ મીડિયા ઉપર પણ એક જનરલ ડિક્ટમ છે જેના વિશે આપણે વાત કરી દઈએ. ડૂઝ ઓન સોશિયલ મીડિયા. આપણે બધા ફેસબુક ઉપર, વોટ્સઅપ ઉપર બધું શેર કરતા હોઈએ છીએ અને આઈ એમ ટ્રાઇંગ ટુ પુટ અપ ધોઝ થિંગ્સ ઇન પર્સપેક્ટિવ. બી એ ગીવર એન્ડ નોટ અ ટેકર. આપણે બધા હંમેશા શું ઈચ્છતા હોઈએ છીએ કે આપણી ક્લિનિકનું, આપણી જગ્યાનું, આપણી પ્રોડક્ટનું માર્કેટિંગ થાય, પણ સામાન્ય માણસના નજરિયાથી જોઈએ તો આપણે જો ખાલી જાહેરાત જ કરી રાખશું તો એ લોકોને એમાં ઇન્ટરેસ્ટ નથી પડવાનો. સો ગીવ ધેમ વોટ દે આર રિયલી ઇન્ટરેસ્ટેડ. ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ, ઇફ સપોઝ આઈ એમ એ પીડિયાટ્રિશિયન, તો હું પીડિયાટ્રિશિયન તરીકે લોકોને રોજ 10 ટોપિક આપું જુદા જુદા કે ભાઈ વેક્સિનેશન બહુ જરૂરી છે, વેક્સિનેશન આ કરાવો તે કરાવો, અથવા તો બાળકને હેલ્થની લગતી ટિપ્સ આપું, તો પીપલ આર મોર ઇન્ક્લાઇન્ડ ટુવર્ડ્સ રીડિંગ માય પોસ્ટ. અને એમાં છેલ્લે કદાચ નીચે મારી એક લાઈન હોય કે વધુ માહિતી માટે તમે સંપર્ક કરી શકો ડોક્ટર મૌલિક શાહનો. સો ધીસ ઇઝ હાઉ યુ શુડ બી. 10 એક પોસ્ટ એવી મૂકો કે જે તમારી જાહેરાત લાગે, જે તમારું માર્કેટિંગ હોય. 9 પોસ્ટ જે વાચક છે, જે તમારો વ્યુઅર છે એને મદદરૂપ થાય એવી હોવી જોઈએ. આજે કોઈની પાસે એવો ટાઈમ નથી કે તમારી એડવર્ટાઇઝમેન્ટ રોજ જોયા જો કરે. So that's very clear that you should be a giver and not a taker. Make it in indirect marketing, not the direct one. Share quality things. બધું વોટ્સઅપમાંથી કટ કોપી પેસ્ટ કરી અને ફોરવર્ડ કરે રાખવું, એનાથી બહુ મોટો ફાયદો નથી થવાનો. બી એન ઇન્ડિજિનિયસ પ્રોડ્યુસર. તમે પોતે કંઈક નવું ક્રિએટ કરો. યુ શુડ બી એ ગુડ ક્રિએટર which people are ready to learn and earn from. So that should be your goal. It should be shared and comment. For example, if I am putting vaccine related video on YouTube, there are 300 comments which I received today morning. I have to answer many of them which might be having a concern. Sir, I have an allergy. Should I take a vaccine? I will answer that. So like that, if you are commenting and replying to your viewers, that is building a community. That is building a connection. Try to serve the community. They are going to be your backbone. They are going to refer the people to you. So that's very important. Often we ignore that. We just post it and then forget it. That's not going to be the way. People like those people who really help them in their question times or in their uneasy hours. Be honest in your write-ups. તમે જે લખો એના પ્રત્યે નિખાલસ હોવા જોઈએ. તમને જે આવડે છે એના વિશે લખો, જેના વિશે માસ્ટર છો. જે નથી આવડતું એના વિશે ન લખો. કટ કોપી પેસ્ટ મૂકવું જરૂરી નથી દર વખતે. Give credit to your real author. ઘણી બધી વખત આપણે બઠાવા સિવાય બીજું કંઈ ન કરતા હોય, કટ કોપી પેસ્ટ જ કરતા હોય. ફાઇન, નો ઇશ્યુઝ. આજે મોહલ બેન્કરે એક સરસ મજાનો આર્ટિકલ લખ્યો, મને બહુ ગમ્યો. કઈ વાંધો નહીં, તમારા પર શેર કરો, પણ નીચે લખો કે ઓરિજિનલ આર્ટિકલ રિટન બાય ડોક્ટર મોહલ બેન્કર, and if you want to read it further, go to his website or go to his clinic. So that's what is really required. Otherwise it is called plagiarism, means તમે આ એક ચોરી કરી છે. So be sharing and caring, not always doing a copy pasting. Then be specific to your audience or group. ઘણી બધી વખત હું જોઉં છું કે આપણે લોકો એવી બધી વસ્તુઓ પ્રસ્તુત કરી દેતા હોય છે કે જે આપણા ઓડિયન્સને જરૂર જ નથી હોતી. So we need to be very specific on that count. Few things we should not do. Just 1 minute, Mohal, last minute. So we should not be putting too lengthy things. લોકોની જે મેમરી છે બહુ શોર્ટ ટર્મ છે અને પહેલી 1.5 મિનિટમાં જો રસ ન જાગે તો આગળ ઉપર કોઈ વિડીયો પણ નથી જોતું. So like that, you need to be very precise. તમારે કહેવું છે જો 4 લાઈનમાં પતી જતું હોય તો પ્લીઝ 5મી લાઈન ન લખો. લાંબા વોટ્સઅપ મેસેજ, લાંબી ફેસબુક પોસ્ટ વાંચવા વાળી પબ્લિકનો રેશિયો બહુ જ ઓછો છે, બહુ જ ઓછા રેટ છે. Weird pictures. Weird pictures means, for example, if I have done a good surgery, it's really good. And from technical aspect, from surgical aspect, it looks really fantastic. But for a common man, a લોહી નીંગળતી વસ્તુ કે a blood sharing pictures are often not a good sight. So they do not like to see. They often like a pre and post of person's photo, but they do not like the pictures which looks weird to a common man. So please don't share those things. That gives you negative publicity, and often nowadays these Facebooks or Twitters, they block such images and consider it inappropriate for a particular person or particular age group based upon their particular shared information that they want to see these things and they do not want to see these things. Thrashing or bashing should not be done. મોહલ બેન્કર સાથે મારે ગમે તેટલી દુશ્મનાવટ હોય તો હું સોશિયલ મીડિયા ઉપર ક્યારેય એની સાથે ઝઘડો નહીં કરું. That's not going to work out for me. Even if my competitor is putting something, even if I'm not agreeing to his idea, I may not be doing a thrashing or bashing on social media. That's not the platform we should be aiming at. That's not going to benefit any of us. We should not tag without permission. We should always be, જેવું ટેગવાનું ચાલુ કરશું એમ લોકો તમને અનફ્રેન્ડ કરવાનું, બ્લોક કરવાનું ચાલુ કરી દેશે. We should not be using copyrighted images. We should not be spreading hate or hoax. That is often nowadays the case. So these are the common messages I would like to. I hope my things have been messages well taken. You can visit me on gujmom.com on the YouTube. And further, if any questions, I will be happy to answer. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Maulik, for your nice innovative talk. તારી વાત સાચી છે કે આપણે ગૂગલને એકચ્યુઅલી અંડર એસ્ટિમેટ કરી રહ્યા છે અને ઇટ્સ અ ફ્રી. એટલે વન પોઈન્ટ વિચ યુ માર્ક ઇટ્સ વેરી ટ્રુ કે હવે ખાલી વિઝિટિંગ કાર્ડનો જમાનો ગયો. વિઝિટિંગ કાર્ડની જોડે જોડે ગૂગલને આપણે યુઝ કરવું જ પડે તો જ આપણને ખ્યાલ આવે. અમારો પોતાનો એક્સપિરિયન્સ શેર કરું ને, મેં અને રોઝીલે અમે જે જેનિક્યુલર આર્ટરી એમ્બ્યુલેશન ચાલુ કર્યું છે તો મેની પેશન્ટ્સ એ એટલે આપણે કહીએ કે 60 years પ્લસ છે. આપણે એવું લાગે કે આ ઓલ્ડ એજ ગ્રુપ તરફ છે, ઘણી વાર તો 70 years 70 પ્લસ છે. એ લોકો પણ આ સોશિયલ મીડિયાથી જાણકારી મેળવી અને અમારી પાસે આવ્યા છે. સો એવું નથી કે ખાલી યંગસ્ટર્સ દે આર ઓનલી અટેચ વિથ ધ સોશિયલ મીડિયા, પણ ઇવન ધ ઓલ્ડ એજ પર્સન દે આર ઓલ્સો વેરી કનેક્ટેડ ટુ સોશિયલ મીડિયા. They used to do many search on the YouTube or social media, and they use it, and they come to us through this social media platform. हमारा कोई videos જોઈને કે हमारे कोई post જોઈને આયા છે. અને so actually you are very true કે we are underutilizing the Google services, and we should all have આ ગૂગલની સર્વિસીસને આપણે આપણી પ્રેક્ટિસમાં વણવી જ જોઈએ, તો એનાથી ઘણો ફાયદો થયો છે. થેન્ક યુ સો મચ મૌલિક ફોર યોર ઇલોબરેટિવ ટોક. Now for next talk, I would like to invite Dr. Sumit Dobe. Sumit is a very good friend of mine, and Sumit has a special interest in diet planning. Basically, આપણને એવું ખ્યાલ હશે કે ડાયાબિટીસ એક આપણે ઘણી મેટફોર્મિન ચાલુ કરીએ, પછી ઇન્સ્યુલિન ચાલુ કરીએ, but type 2 diabetes is reversible. And Sumit has treated more than, I think, 400 patients for diabetes, and he has reversed the diabetes type 2 of almost 400 patients. એમાંથી લગભગ 50 to 55 patients આપણા doctors colleagues છે. So Sumit is going to deliver talk on our immune system, how to make our immune system anti-fragile. Dr. Sumit, I will hand over mic to you.
Hello everyone, ready for the how to bulletproof your immune system. Now the two parts of the immune system, we have an innate and adaptive immune system. Innate is a born. Innate we have when we are born, and this is our frontline in the immune system. Adaptive is when we have to develop it. This is our backup system. Now we have to immune gland simplified. First is a thymus. Thymus is a lymphoid gland composed of the two identical sized lobe located behind the sternum but in the front of the heart. Function of the thymus gland is to production of the T cell, zinc. When we get older and because of the zinc deficiency, our thymus gland become shrink. Please, sorry, the PPT. Now the we have a three circulatory system in our body: arterial, venous, and the lymphatic. Lymphatic only we are located in the neck, armpit, and the groin region. Where if we will take stress, lymph node going to become shrink. Now there is 70% of the role in the immune system is our colon. We have about 70%.
Sumit, just a minute, તારું PPT અંદર share નથી થતું. Have you shared your PPT?
સર મેં શેર કરેલું છે actually.
એ કદાચ થયું નથી તો ફરીથી અનશેર કરીને શેર કર તો આઈડિયા આવશે.
Share છે સર PPT. Now
બસ હવે થયું. Yes, now it started.
Start from the first. Now ready for the how to bulletproof your immune system. Now understand the two parts of your immune system. First is innate and second is adaptive. Innate is when we are born, and this is our frontline immune system. Adaptive is also called the acquired immune system. We have to develop it, and this is our backup immune system. Now the immune glands simplified. First is the thymus. Thymus located behind the sternum, but in the front of the heart. Function of the thymus is production of the T cell. As we get older, and because of the zinc deficiency, thymus gland become shrink. Now we're going to talk about the lymph node. We have three circulatory system in our body: arterial, venous, and the lymphatic. So lymph node are located in armpit, neck, and the groin region. If we take stress, lymph node becomes shrink. Now we are going to talk about the colon. We have about 70% of our entire immune system that located in our intestine, where we have this bacteria, and it's called the microbe. We have 1% of these microbes are the pathogens, and the 90% are the good bacteria. Lots of lymphatic that occur right here. Microbes make B12, B1, biotin, vitamin K, and others. So here you have to improve your digestion and remove your constipation, especially the lactobacillus make lactic acid. So lactic acid make it very, very uncomfortable for the pathogens to live. So if you want to increase your lactobacillus, curd is the best thing to include every day in your diet. So the problem when we take antibiotic, it kills all the bacteria and we lost the lactic acid and we can't fight it. Now we'll talk about the mucus. Mucus layer lines the sinuses, the trachea and the lung and intestine, and the lots of friendly bacteria that live in the mucus layer. Body produces 1.5 liter of the mucus every single day. This mucus is highly sensitive to the vitamin A. So we when are deficient in vitamin A, we can't support this mucus like this. That's why vitamin is so beneficial for the sinus problem to maintaining the mucus layer. Now we are going to talk about the innate part of the immune system. Natural meaning it's part of the innate immune system. It does not need any training on what to do. The natural killers are specialized in killing virus and the tumor cells. That's why when people are in the chemotherapy, it destroys cancer as well as our immune system. So without the defense, cancer can come back. So if you want to increase your natural killer cells, so include vitamin C in your daily diet, because vitamin C increases the natural killer cells in your diet. Now we have a 4 player in our body, 3 T cell and a B and 1 B cell. This is our adaptive part of the immune system. The T killer cell kill the viruses, but because without helper cell, they can't do killing. So first T helper cell find the virus and the microbes and they tag it. So T helper cell like a commander and it's the brain of the immune system. T regulatory cell differentiate the good and the bad bacteria. It's prevent the autoimmune diseases and it suppresses the inflammation in our body. Now this is the B cell. B cells stand for the bone marrow because that's where it is originate. The B cell does not necessarily do the killing and it's make the antibody in our body. So the impact of vitamins in our immune system. First is a vitamin D. We have the spike of the flu, virus, viral infection because of the vitamin D deficiency. Higher incidence of the autoimmune disease like lupus, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and the irritable bowel syndrome. Why? So this is because of the vitamin D. So vitamin D is a natural kind of the steroid and it is anti-inflammatory. The key function of the vitamin D is reducing the inflammation in our body. Vitamin D is an immunomodulator. Hyperinflammatory condition also is called the cytokine storm. So cytokine storm, inflammation, vitamin D is come down in our body. So these are the sources of vitamin D. Base source is the sunlight and another is the cod liver oil. Otherwise, you have to take a supplement for the vitamin D. Now we are going to talk about the vitamin C. Vitamin C increase the WBC movement, increase the phagocytosis, increase the macrophages clearance, enhance the growth of the T cell and the B cell in our body, prevent the respiratory infection and decrease the duration of infection in our body. So sources are the 90 mg as per the RDA allowance. If you prevent infection, then you need per day 200 mg vitamin C. But actually you get infection, then you need a 500 mg vitamin C D in your daily diet. So these are the sources of the vitamin D, lemon, amla, and the citrus food are the good source for the vitamin D. So include in your diet every day. So now the vitamin A, vitamin is a development of the both helper and the T cell. T and the B cell, profound effect on the macrophages, integrity of your mucous membrane. And we have sometime we heard the word like a leaky gut. So it's maintain the tight tension in our gut. So these are the sources of the vitamin A, butter, cow ghee, carrot, capsicum, broccoli, and all the green leafy vegetables are contain vitamin A. So cod liver oil is a good source for the vitamin A. Now the zinc. If you have a zinc deficiency, zinc decrease the quality of the WBC cell in our body. It's decrease the weapons like macrophages and the phagocytosis, decrease the size of the thymus gland, decrease the recovery rate, decrease the duration of the infection, and increase the inflammation in our body. If you are taking everyday high sugar diet, then sugar is also decrease the zinc in our body, zinc absorption in our body. Phytates are mainly found in the multigrain. Phytates are the chemical and mainly found in the multigrain. If you are taking antacid and antibiotic, also it's decrease the zinc absorption in our body. So sources are the zinc for legumes, nuts, seeds, vegetables, oyster, red meat, and the fish are the best sources for the zinc. So daily include in your diet. Now sugar seriously destroy your immune system. So hyperglycemia means high sugar in your body. So high sugar suppresses your immunity, slow WBC moving through your tissue, impair the phagocytosis, diminish the blood flow, and less innate immunity. So day to day in your life, decrease your sugar intake in your life. Now stress and the immune system. If you are going to take stress, the body is going to increase the cortisol hormone. So cortisol hormone decrease the size of the lymph nodes and the thymus, increase the susceptibility to viral and the bacterial infection. If you want to reduce stress, then go for the long walk, take a more sleep, environmental changes, and increase the vitamin B1 in your daily routine. Now, how to leverage exercise to maximize immune system? So if you are doing regular consistency of exercise, so exercise increase your limb circulation, delay effect of aging, and enhance the improvement of the defense and the response, and reduce the mental stress in your body. So some of the tricks here I'm giving you. So avoid too much cortisol in your body. So go for the long walk. Don't overtrain your muscles and get every day a proper sleep. Now sleep deeper and boost immune system. So take every day a good sleep. So sleep is going to, immune system is highly influenced by your sleep cycles, decrease the growth hormone, increase your cortisol, increase your adrenaline, decrease the speed of WBC fighting infection, decrease killer T cells, and the circadian rhythm is macrophages depend on your sleep cycle. So take every day good sleep and remove your stress from your life. So 72 hours of fasting strategy that take your immune system to the next level. So if you do a 72-hour fasting, or if you are doing daily routine in your fasting, so it will boost your WBC and white blood cell in your body, like phagocytosis, T cells, and the B cell. It strongly suppresses your inflammation and kill all damage of WBC by the autophagy. So do every day 72 hours. Monthly, one time you can do it 72-hour fasting. Otherwise, 2 months, one time you can do it 72-hour fasting. Otherwise, you can do daily routine in your intermittent fasting, whether 16/8, 16-hour fasting, and 8 hours eating window. So this is the Langanam Param Aushadam. As per our Ayurveda, the fasting is the best medicine. So it's not the virus that's killing you, it's your immune system. So boost your immunity and don't afraid of like coronavirus or any another virus. It just boost your immunity. Last and the least, the summary, understand your immune system, decrease sugar intake, your daily routine. Do fasting, improve your immunity and remove the stress from your life. Stress is the biggest destroyer of your immune system. Nutrition adisam already I have told, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, and vitamin A, and understand your micro. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Sumit. Thank you, Sumit, for your nice elaborate talk. આપણે ઇમ્યુન સિસ્ટમને ઘણી બધી ઇગ્નોર કરી રહ્યા છે અને એને કારણે જ ઘણીવાર આપણને ઘણો બધો પ્રોબ્લેમ થતો હોય છે. So for next talk માટે I'm going to deliver the last and final talk for this conference. That is Vinasil for varicose vein. There is a new technique for varicose vein. This talk is divided into 3 parts. First one, I would like to introduce you કે વેરિકોઝ વેનની ટ્રીટમેન્ટ ક્યાં કેવી રીતે ડેવલપ થઈ છે. સેકન્ડ થિંગ કે આ વિનાસિલની કેમ જરૂર પડી, અને થર્ડ થિંગ હાઉ ઇઝ ધ પ્રોસિજર એન્ડ વોટ આર ધ રિઝલ્ટ્સ. સો શરૂઆતથી જોઈએ તો વેરિકોઝ વેન ઇઝ વેરી કોમન ડિઝીઝ ફોર અવર કોમ્યુનિટી. ઓલમોસ્ટ 60% of population, entire population of the world is in some form is affected by the venous disease. એમાંથી approximately 15 to 20% of the populations are symptomatic, અને એમાંથી લગભગ 5 to 10% of population are severely symptomatic. They need a treatment. So it's a huge number of patients. શરૂઆત સર્જિકલ લાઇગેશન અને સ્ટ્રીપિંગથી થઈ, જેને એન્ડોવિનસ થર્મલ એબ્લેશન આવ્યું કે જેની અંદર હીટ આપી અને અંદરની વિનસ ઇન્ટીમા ડિસ્ટ્રોય કરવામાં આવે છે. એની અંદર there are 2 modality. One is called endovenous laser ablation and second one is the endovenous radio frequency ablation. Then comes the sclerotherapy. There is a chemical irritant which destroy the venous intima. એના પછી endovenous steam ablation આવ્યું કે જે વોટરની એકદમ હોટ સ્ટીમથી ઇન્ટીમા ડિસ્ટ્રોય કરવાનો ટ્રાય કરે. તો સ્ટીલ આ બધાની અંદર કોઈ ના કોઈ પ્લસ માઇનસ પોઈન્ટ હતા. ડેફિનેટલી સર્જરી હેઝ વેરી બિગ ડિસએડવાન્ટેજ. પણ જે થર્મલ એબ્લેશન કહીએ એની અંદર પણ એક તો ટીમ્યુસન્ટ એનેસ્થેસિયા આપવું પડે છે, કમ્પ્રેશન સ્ટોકિંગ્સની જરૂર પડે છે પેશન્ટને પોસ્ટ ઓપરેટિવલી. ઘણીવાર નર્વ ઇન્જરીઝના ચાન્સીસ પણ રહેતા હોય છે. સો ધીઝ આર ધ ડિસએડવાન્ટેજ ઓફ ઓલ ધીઝ ડિફરન્ટ મેથડ્સ. સો કોઈ માર્કેટમાં એવી કોઈ નવી ટેકનોલોજી આવે કે જેનાથી ટ્યુમ્યુસન્ટ એટલે લોકલ એનેસ્થેસિયાની જરૂર ના પડે, પેશન્ટને પોસ્ટ ઓપરેટિવ સ્ટોકિંગ્સ પહેરવાની જરૂર ના પડે, કે થર્મલ નર્વ ઇન્જરીના કોમ્પ્લિકેશન ના થાય, then it is very well acceptable to large audiences. And આપણે જોવા જઈએ તો glue is very useful in many things. આપણે જોવા જઈએ છે તો આપણે આ ફેવિક્વિક જે વાપરીએ છીએ, ફેંકો નહીં જોડો, એ ફેવિક્વિક also the routine glue. It's not a medical glue, but we use this Fevikwik since last years. Even the medical field ની અંદર પણ we use glues in many fields. એવી malformation માં ગણો કે pre-operative embolization માં ગણો કે even though wound adhesive માં, skin incision માં ઘણી બધી જગ્યાએ ગ્લુના uses થાય છે for the medical glues. પણ જ્યારે આપણે આ ગ્લુ વેઇનમાં વાપરવાની છે તો એના પર્ટિક્યુલર ક્રાઇટેરિયા મેચ થવા જોઈએ. એ વેના ક્રાઇટેરિયામાં એવું છે કે એ એકચ્યુઅલી ઇટ શુડ નોટ બી એમ્બોલાઇઝ ફ્રોમ ડિસ્ટલ ઓર્ગન. જે ટાર્ગેટમાં જ્યાં આપણે ગ્લુ ઇન્જેક્ટ કરીએ છીએ એનાથી આગળ ના જવું જોઈએ, કારણ કે જો આગળ જાય તો પછી બીજી વેન્સને અફેક્ટ કરે, એમ્બોલિશન થાય. પ્લસ સેકન્ડ થિંગ કે એ જે કાસ્ટ ફોર્મ કરે છે એ કાસ્ટ ફોર્મ બહારથી પાલ્પેટ ના થવી જોઈએ, એટલે પેશન્ટને અનકમ્ફર્ટેબલ ના લાગવું જોઈએ, કારણ કે અલ્ટિમેટલી વી આર ઇન્જેક્ટિંગ ધ ફોરેન બોડી. આપણે ફેવિક્વિક જોઈએ તો આપણી સ્કિન પર ચોંટીએ તો કેટલું હેરાન કરે છે. સો એવી જ રીતે આ જે મેડિકલ ગ્લુ છે એનું પણ આપણે આ ચેક કરવું પડે. સો ઓલ ધીસ ક્રાઇટેરિયા મીટ ઇન ટુ ધીસ ન્યૂલી ઇન્ટ્રોડ્યુસ વિનાસિલ બાય મેડટ્રોનિક્સ. ઇટ સર્વ્સ ઓલ અવર પર્પઝ. અને એના જે અત્યાર સુધીના ડેટા છે એની અંદર ઇટ ટ્રીટ ધ 20 મિલીમીટર ડાયામીટર સુધીના વેરિકોઝ વેન પણ એ ટ્રીટ કરે છે. 98% સુધીની એની એફિશિયન્સી જોવા મળે છે. And there are 4 points which we have to take care for while we are treating the Vinasil. First one is that we have to gain the access from the great saphenous vein to, and then second one, then we have to prepare the Vinasil catheter and put it near the acid junctions under the Doppler guidance. Once we put all these tip of the catheter twice into a distal to acid junction, એમાંથી પછી વિનાસિલ ડિલિવરી સિસ્ટમ છે એને આપણે ઇન્ટ્રોડ્યુસ કરી એને અગેન આપણે 5 સેન્ટીમીટર ડિસ્ટલ ટુ એસએફ જંક્શનમાં પ્લેસ કરીએ છીએ. એન્ડ ધેન ગ્રેજ્યુઅલી we inject the glue. See, this is how the saphenofemoral junctions, saphenofemoral junction છે એનાથી 5 સેન્ટીમીટર પ્રોક્સિમલ પ્લેસ કરીએ છીએ. અને આ જે છે વિનાસિલ ગ્લુ એ અમે સિરિંજમાં લઈ અને ડિલિવરી કેથેટરમાં મૂકી. આની ગન છે, there is a trigger for the gun. If we press for 3 seconds, then one drop of glue will drop at the local site of injection. અને એ પછી ત્યાં compress કરવાનું હોય છે, which is I am going to show you. So this is just to be measured કે આ junction થી 5 સેન્ટીમીટર પ્રોક્સિમલ અહીંયા the tip of catheter આવી જોઈએ. This is very easily visible on the Doppler. એકવાર એ ટીપ ત્યાં જોયા પછી ગ્લુ ઇન્જેક્ટ કરીએ. સી these are the droplet of the glue. એકવાર ઇન્જેક્ટ કર્યા પછી એ આગળ માઇગ્રેટ ના થાય એના માટે અને ત્યાંની ત્યાં એક કાસ્ટ ફોર્મ થાય એના માટે એને ત્યાં કમ્પ્રેસ કરીએ છીએ. એ કમ્પ્રેસ કર્યા પછી આ જે ડાયલેટેડ વેઇન છે ઇટ બીકમ્સ એનું લ્યુમેન છે ક્લોઝ થઈ જાય છે. And this is how it looks like on ultrasonography. So ultimately we treat entire this session with this glue. Inject karo, pull back karo, and dabao. This is the method, and entire procedure can be done within 10 to 15 minutes, and it's truly daycare procedure. Procedure માટે લગભગ 20 મિનિટ લાગે છે અને લગભગ પેશન્ટ આવે ને કલાકમાં તો પાછું જઈ શકે છે, કારણ કે કોઈ એનેસ્થેસિયા આપવાનું હોતું નથી. અને એડવાન્ટેજ એ છે કે સ્ટોકિંગ સિરિંજ પર જરૂર નથી પડતી. Only one disadvantage is that these are foreign body, તો એના કારણે ઘણીવાર હાઇપર સેન્સિટિવ રિએક્શન આવે તો આ ટાઈપના સ્કિન ચેન્જીસ જોવા મળે છે. સો લાસ્ટમાં જોઈએ તો there are many advantages of the glue. One is no stocking required, it's OPD procedure, painless procedure, no local anesthesia required, and no post-operative pain, which is quite common in other procedures. While the biggest disadvantage is cost. Hypersensitivity, ભલે અમુક reports publish થયેલા છે પણ we don't see in day-to-day practice, but cost is very much high. Almost 3 to 4 times to routine endovenous thermal ablation. So thank you so much for listening this Vinasil talk, and thank you so much for our this anti-fragile concept of this conference. તમે બધાએ અત્યારે તમારો કિંમતી સમય કાઢી અને આ બધી ટોક ડિફરન્ટ સાંભળી. Thank you so much. These will guide us how to gain from the difficulties, how to use our Google, how to find out some different modalities to into the different difficult situation. તો આપણે એક માર્ગ આપણો બંધ થયો તો આપણે બીજો નવો માર્ગ કેવી રીતે શોધી શકીએ એના માટેની આ એક પ્રયત્ન હતો. થેન્ક યુ સો મચ. And I would like to thanks to all our faculties, Dr. Ruzil, Dr. Maulik, Sumit, Pragnesh, Amit, Mihir, એ બધાનો ખૂબ ખૂબ આભાર કે તમે બધા જોડાયા. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.